hello. This is Christina Barn. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we'll be talking about this clip of Ibraham X Kendi, who, coined the whole anti-racism movement. You can't just be not racist, you have to be anti-racism, fight against it. But I've said this repeatedly. So many people who claim to be against racism are, in fact, racist and spreading racism, and they need the money. I don't know if they need the money, but that's a lot of them make money and remain relevant. So he said some comments about anti-whiteness the other day, or whiteness the other day, and he's gearing up for some kind of big uh thing on Netflix and stuff, which I don't want to watch it. Maybe I will. Just critique it or comment on it. But his conversation about whiteness has reminded me once again of the whiteness infographic that I've pointed to many times, but I guess we'll go through that again. And even like as I was preparing and thinking about talking about this today, there's something else, a tweet I came across today that was so stupid, but also lends credibility to what I'm talking about. So we will talk about those things. Also, there was a story about a trans woman who was playing soccer. It was in the UK, so they call it football. But and on they had to end up dropping out because the woman just decided to not play against him. And so I guess suppose that is the way. If women would just stand up and say, no, we are not going to allow this to continue happening, we're not going to even entertain this, then you'd have perhaps more situations like this when they just have to drop out, or they have to arrange the rules so such a person cannot compete. But they also have like a kinky sort of history, which I don't know. It seems like a lot of people who want access to be incorporated among women have some kind of a creepy fetish history or something. So we'll go through that story and more today as well. But before we jump into it, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, different videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate. It does cost stream, rem, a website, all that stuff. So if you guys can support in that way, very much do appreciate it. If you guys are watching on Facebook, you guys can send stars. For watching on YouTube, you guys can send super chats and things like that. You guys can check out my store. Like I voted for Trump, and all I got was low taxes and get tax cut, gas under $2, a bunch of other stuff, and this lousy t-shirt. I got this denounce white supremacy, defeat Joe Biden shirt. I got the I'm not the victim you're looking for. And I do have different books that you guys can find on Amazon. I have nonfiction books like Say You're Free, How to Overcome a Spirit of Fear. I have historical fiction, fantasy books, and all kinds of different stuff you guys can check out. Also children's chapter books and whatnot. Just go ahead and search me on Amazon. If you guys want to find my books another way, you guys can just go to blackteeners.com, and if you go to the merchandise page, there's a banner that'll take you to my book website, so you can see all that stuff as well. Tomorrow I will not be live because I will be at a craft show. Like it's a Christmas show, or it's like a book fair and other stuff like that. So I'll be there selling my books and stuff, and my sister will have a table as well, so she'll be selling her art and stuff. So I will be occupied and hopefully selling well. So I'll be there, so I won't be live. I don't think I will have a pre-show because I just don't think I'll have the time to do it, and I'll be if I don't do it tonight, I'll definitely not be able to do it. So there's some juicy news tonight. Be hopeful that there's going to be a live tomorrow. It won't be live, but it'll be streaming live for you guys. But probably not going to have a show tomorrow. But just want to let you guys know that in advance. I do have a meme that I want to show you guys, And it's one of those, look, it's a good joke, but I'm gonna need you to quit anyway. If you've seen that video on a TikTok, we're like, listen, it's a good joke. Because it is like a good joke. It's Babylon B. It's a Babylon B headline. And it's one of those that's dark and that's true. And I guess I'll just show it to you guys and we'll go from there. But this is sometimes comedy has to punch you in the face, I suppose. Um Bill Cosby joins Hamas, so feminists will stop condemning him for rape. So that's the Babylon B headline. Babylon B is a parody website. So there's been a alarming amount of people who have decided to ignore the atrocities that have been committed in Israel on October the 7th. I think our State Department speculated that the reason why they don't want to release any more women, Hamas, is because they don't want them to be released to be able to tell all the things that happened to them if they're even still alive. But ever since the beginning, there were stories coming out. Well, you could see pictures of women with bloodied pants, and some people are like, "That's just mud." Like, I know what I know what bloodied pants looks like. So there was women with blood like down their crotch and other stuff like that, and there were testimonies from witnesses that came out early on that they saw different women being sexually assaulted. There was um women or different people who saw the bodies, that there were broken pelvises and legs spread open and pants pulled down and panties, all kinds of things that indicate that there was sexual assault going on. And there's people who are denying it in the UN. I think they're finally beginning to speak up a little bit about that now, but they were very silent. A lot of these feminist groups were silent about it. Um, there's this progressive, I saw a tweet from her, Brianna, gosh, what's her name? Let me see if I can find the tweet really quick. Basically people saying like, oh, there's not enough evidence or there's not enough witnesses telling their story. And of course there's not enough witnesses telling their story when they killed so many of them. So but there's been report after report after report and people just again sort of denying it. Here it is, Brianna Joy Greer. Um, she said, believe all women was always an absurd overreach. Women should be heard, claims should be investigated, but evidence is required. The same is true for allegations out of Israel, but also this isn't a believe all women scenario because no female victims have offered testimony. So, with the women who were kidnapped, the women who were murdered. So if someone says, yeah, I saw them being gang raped, and there's testimony from witnesses. The victim obviously can't talk about it because they're dead or they're kidnapped, but they're talking about stories where they saw them sexually assaulting them and even like shooting them and still finishing while the person was dead or dying. There's those terrible stories. And you don't want to listen to that. You don't want to listen to people talk about they found semen and broken pelvises and all that stuff. And you say there has to be evidence, but you just don't want to accept the evidence, which you see this all the time with people who don't want to accept something, and they ask for evidence, but there's what evidence will you believe? And it gets to a point where they ask for evidence that's just unreasonable because what do you expect? You expect these women to come back from the dead now to tell their stories before you believe them? And will you even believe them at that point? Because you're so desperate to not accept that these brutal terrorists would do such a thing. It's not like it's I don't know, a friend of the family that you know, or it's not like it's a politician or a celebrity that you love so much. These are terrorists who came in to murder innocent people, who chopped off fingers, toes, lit people on fire, threw grenades into shelters. beheaded people while they were still alive, beheaded civilians and Israeli soldiers and stuff. And you can't like believe that, even with like testimonies from like people being held, or finding instructions on how to tell people to take down their pants and other things like that. It's just, you can't wrap your mind around these people committing these atrocious things. That's pretty nuts. So I'm glad more people are talking about it. BBC just did an article. CNN's talked about it a few times. So it's good that these conversations are happening. Um, Not because I want everyone to live in the terror of that time, but I think it speaks volumes that so many people are so desperate to deny the horrific things, or but I suppose they want to do that because they don't want to accept that Israel is facing an existential crisis, with Hamas being like, oh yeah, if you guys don't finish this off, we're going to definitely do worse to you. So people don't want to believe how bad it was, or that it can be worse, so they make excuses. um when Candace Owens had Norman Finkelstein on her show, he said he didn't believe that people were beheaded. He didn't really believe that women were raped, and she didn't say anything. She didn't push back on him. There were definitely stories about that evidence at that time when she had him on the show. So I thought that was pretty egregious that she didn't push back on him. Um, and I think he should have been able to have known at that time, but perhaps he didn't want to accept it. Perhaps he didn't want to accept it, but I still have to do a video about that interview. I thought it was egregious that she didn't say anything about it, but um yeah, so what a strong headline from the B. But I guess, again, glad that we're having these conversations. And I've said this before, but one reason why I guess it's fascinating to talk about what's going on in Israel on October the 7th is the sort of mental gymnastics people will do to deny some of these things that have happened, to I don't know, just belittle Israelis, to the white oppressor, and the, well, why don't you support the brown people, and the goalpost with morality, the justifying of the terrible actions, because people will say, even if you push people to accept the terrible things that have happened, they'll say, well, it's still justified, or who are we to judge, because they've been under occupation and 75 years open air prison, etc., blah blah blah. And nothing makes that stuff okay. Nothing makes that stuff okay. So I think we are deeply sick as a society, um where we just don't have any frame on what is good and what is evil, and it's just relative to our own ob- ob- objectives. So anyway, moving on. I want to start with this Ibrahim Kendi, um, and the whiteness. So we've talked about the subject quite a bit, and I'm going to go through that infographic that I've brought up many times. If you haven't seen it before, it's a doozy about the whiteness in America. So Ibrahim X Kendi is the anti-racism guy. He's gotten all kinds of deals and um, money from all sorts of donors, and has his organization, and has been grifting off of this for a minute. But the issue with so many people pushing the anti-racism, or fighting racism, or claim that they're fighting racism, is that they depend on racism to be relevant. That they have a biggest magnifying glass on anything to try to prove their point, and they'll point to things that aren't even racism, and they come up with these silly concepts, and don't, and can't even like all the way justify them. Often Ibrahim Kendi is just intellectually silly. But I want to show you guys this clip about the whiteness, and go from there. Um And this is a sort of rhetoric that they just have and have been had. And keep in mind that they're going to do like a Netflix special with this guy as well.
White people worldwide have really reckoned with how much their own personal identity is shaped by constructions of whiteness, and how much that construction of whiteness prevents white people from connecting to humanity. In other words, recognizing that when you recognize that you are part and parcel of humanity, in other words, you're not over humanity, right? It allows you to really be able to connect to people who don't look like you, who have kinky hair, who have dark skin, and to see yourself in them. And it's whiteness that prevents that, right? And when you're not able to see yourself in other human beings, that creates all sorts of problems. But not just societal problems, personal problems. That I think hopefully this film and this work will liberate those folks from. So I think it's liberating all the way around, right? I think it will liberate, really all of us, because, we've all been told a lie about ourselves and other people.
Ooh. What did he say that warranted? Ever been to like a church service and somebody says something that's like really circular? I think one time someone said something like, God put you here for the reason why God put you here for a reason was because God put you here for a purpose or something. And people's like, yeah. And it's just like, what? What? You didn't say anything. So, dear white people, dear black people, dear everyone, don't let folks like that enlighten you, indoctrinate you truly into these weird worldviews. So the whiteness has impacted white people's identity so much that they cannot see black people, other people who aren't like them, as human. Now, I would argue that this sort of rhetoric has damaged so many people's brains, particularly people of color, that they cannot look at white people and just see them as human. They can't just see them as someone who is like them. That is why if I take a position like, oh, condemn Hamas and what happened on October 7th was terrible and Israel has a right to defend themselves, people have decided that the Israelis are the white people in the situation. And that is why people have said to me, how dare you stand up for them? You need to stand up for the brown people. Like, look at what happened. It's terrible. It's awful. They face an existential crisis. Of course, any nation would have the right to defend themselves on that type of situation. If someone wants to go to war with them, fine, but you have to be prepared to suffer the consequences of your declared actions. If that's the route that you want to go, if you don't want to take sides, fine. But just know that that's the reality of nations and countries and war. But they're just like, no, how dare you? You have to support the brown people. And they have reached conclusions such as that because all they see are these power structures defined upon the basis of skin color. And so this idea that whiteness is what's making the white people so disassociated from everyone else because they see themselves so far above everyone, I don't think that's the truth. I think it's very much what they want to make true, but it's just really not the case. It's just really not the case. So um I saw something today on Twitter which was pretty remarkable to me. Remarkable as in not unbelievable, because I've seen plenty of stuff like this. Um, but just remarkable because it's just really stupid. So I already did TikTok about this. So if you follow me on TikTok, perhaps you've already seen this. But I saw a a uh thread, and it was about someone was talking about birth control. And so this the conversation ended up spawning off, and someone said something along the lines of, it's good for people to wait until marriage to have sex. Now, you guys know that I am a Christian, and just common sense wise, I think that makes sense. Religiously, morally, ethically, like, I believe that is what people should do. People have the freedom to obviously not take that advice. But this person had a whopper of an opinion here. It said waiting for marriage is a white Western religion idea. There are many people and entire cultures who raise families without marriage. In what reality? In what reality is marriage or waiting until marriage a white Western idea? But people will say this stuff like this. They will associate it with white and Western because they want to associate things that they don't want to live up to, these expectations that are common sense moral things that lift up family societal structures and so on. And if someone else isn't living up to those sorts of expectations, they want to say, hey, how dare you judge? Other cultures are different. You're just imposing your whiteness on everyone. Don't believe me? I'm going to go through, I'm just going to briefly show you this to prove a point, but we'll go through this um more thoroughly. But once upon a time, this was in 2020, the African American History Museum by the Smithsonian, that's like, it's a 4-level museum in DC. Actually, I haven't been in there. My family went there. I don't know why I did something else different that day when they went there, but it's a 4-level museum. They decided to put out some stuff about whiteness in America, and they ended up taking down this infographic because it caused such a stir. But the internet is forever, and I always have this uploaded here. So the idea with white culture and whiteness is in America is that there's certain things, certain expectations, certain cultural things, certain behavioral issues, and religious beliefs, and so on, that are associated by this white American identity. And even if different minorities have the same sort of ideas and virtues, it's not because it's a black American thing or a black thing. It's because whiteness is so a part of our culture that has just impacted other people as well. So people are trying to associate, oh, that's a whiteness thing. Whiteness is bad. That's racist. Oh, they that people believe that they're above these other cultures, like Ibraham Kendi. If whiteness has made people so far above people that they can't even see the humanity in other people who aren't white. So you associate like something positive. Let's just take something from the list, like objective, rational, linear thinking is on there. Let's say if you're an objective, rational thinker, linear thinker, the idea of that, if you that's whiteness. Don't expect anyone else to think like that. They have things like being punctual on time. That's a wet concept. And and expecting other people expecting minorities to show up to work on time is that's a white concept in the US. How dare you? That those are the sorts of things that they push. So back to this tweet. Uh this idea that waiting until marriage is a white Western religion thing is crazy. First of all, there are people who are, well, the idea of marriage, like, there are people who maybe don't believe in the government getting involved and signing a piece of paper or having some kind of public declaration, but they, for all intents purposes, believe that you have some kind of permanent relationship with someone, and you're committed to that person. So that's still, outside of having a public declaration or whatever, you're still kind of functioning in a marriage sort of sense. Um so this idea of it being a family structure, of it being permanent, of it being some something where you're committed to a particular person, that's marriage, right? So there's people who are secular, who aren't religious, who believe in marriage and even believe in not sleeping around and saving themselves until marriage. Now you could say maybe perhaps some of that is influenced by religious culture, because we are a society that is founded on Judeo-Christian values, perhaps. But there's a lot of, but people will still keep those sort of traditions and ideas because it, like I said, it is a common sense sort of thing. If everyone just decided to sleep with people who they were committed to long term, um, in something like a marriage, you wouldn't have all of these the baby mama dramas, the broken families with all the fatherless homes. Well, you could still have like a fatherless home, um, due to situations other than sleeping around, or and you didn't get married or whatever. But that's where, let's frankly, like, most of those situations occur. You wouldn't have all these abortions. 86% of abortions are from unmarried women. um and if you wouldn't have so many like broken sort of family structures, you'd have less crime, you'd have less poverty, all sorts of different things. So it would deeply improve our society overnight. If people decided, you know what, I enjoy sex, but I'm going to, I believe it, my drive is ordered toward the creation and preservation of the family, and I'm going to practice self-control and be committed to someone when I find the right person to love and share my life with, would totally make our world a better place. No question. So, and I'm not saying that people can't have trauma or hangups within marriage and other stuff like that. That's not what I'm saying. But overall, if people would make that sort of commitment, like biblically or whatever, um, or not biblical, just common sense, just kind of following those rules, of course our society would be better. So if it is a Western white idea, thank you to the Western white people, but it's just not true. So most people who have it in their minds that they are going to wait are influenced by some kind of religious structure. And mostly I would say there's other religions that are, um are push celibacy and other stuff like that. But I would say that Abrahamic faiths, Judeo-Christian values and stuff is the predominant like pusher of those sorts of things. So Abrahamic, uh do people think that Moses was a white Western dude? Do people think Jesus was a white Western dude? Do people think the Apostle Paul was a white Western dude? No, absolutely not. They're not some blue eyed, blonde haired Germans. They're not a bunch of Quakers in the ancient Near East making these rules about society and morality and so on. So the idea that it's just ridiculous, and it's so dumb. It's so dumb. The origin of all this is not white Western values. And back in the day, whether it's near ancient East or you talking about royal bloodlines and people connecting and like we need this maid her to be a maid and stuff, that is so when you have the joining of these families, paternity isn't really in question because you want to make sure that the woman is intact and hasn't been sleeping around, and if she pops out an heir, it's really the heir of the kingdom, or it's the heir of the families joining together, etc. That's been going on for a long time in the near ancient East and stuff. It is not a Western thing, but this person doesn't like that sort of moral um charge, like society should be this way, so they relate it automatically to Western and white, to reject it because they're apparently racist, I guess, and just have a rejection of that, um and they go from there even though it's blatantly not true, blatantly not true. So let's go through some more of this whiteness culture stuff. I've been through this many times before with you guys. Um, but what are the things that qualify, just like examples of whiteness? That the individual is a primary unit, self reliance, that's a white culture, independence and autonomy, highly valued and rewarded. Individuals assumed to be in control of their environment, like you get what you deserve. So, so individualism, you can control your own life. You know, that's what they deem as white culture, which seems kind of strange because it kind of reminds me a little bit the last one of like karma, like you get what you deserve, but whatever. Nuclear family, that there's a father, mother, two, three kids or whatever. um Husband is a breadwinner of the household. The wife is a homemaker, subordinate to the husband. Children should have their own rooms, except be independent, etc. Um, yeah, that's also very strange. How is like a nuclear family a Western idea? I can tell you that there's some Eastern countries who have a far greater grasp on that, on a family structure. Well, they their family structure is more communal with like grandparents and so on, as opposed to just like mom and dad and whatnot. So they have tighter, better family structures. But reminder, Black Lives Matter, their co-founder Patrice Cullors, when people were asking questions like, "Oh, is BLM going to be able to stand the test of time?" Because other groups, like Occupy Wall Street, they didn't have any sort of ideological framework to stand the test of time. And she's like, "Well, we have an ideological framework because we're trained Marxists." And so it wasn't a surprise to me when they had their "What We Believe, What We're About" page, and on there they were talking about um disrupting the Western prescribed nuclear family, because Marxism, they do want to tear down particular different institutions in order to see Marxism thrive. And one of those important institutions is the family structure. So you see these things mirrored in different sorts of work. Um, Objective rational linear thinking, cause and effect relationships, quantitative emphasis, history based on Northern European immigrants' experience in the United States, heavy focus on British Empire. Um, British Empire was pretty important. Um, um, the primacy of the Western Greek, Roman, Judeo Christian tradition, Protestant uh, work ethic, a Protestant work ethic. Hard work is key to success. Work before play. If you didn't meet your goals, you didn't work hard enough. So those sort of ideas are good ideas. I would say good ideas. Like you should focus on hard work, and that it is a key to success. Sometimes things can fall in your lap, but working hard is very important. Those are examples of whiteness in America. Religion, Christianity is the norm. Again, Christianity, that is not a white Western whiteness religion. So why is that going under the whiteness in America sort of situation? Anything other than Judeo-Christian is foreign. No tolerance or deviation from the single God concept. That's a big one. Because the Abrahamic faiths believe that there is one God. So you're saying all the countries that are Muslim dominant are pushing something that's whiteness, a concept of whiteness. Some of these things are so ridiculous, but I assume they put that together because they want to condemn the sort of Christianity dominance in the West. Wealth equals worth. That your job is who you are. Respect authority is whiteness in America. Part of white culture in America that you respect authority. So think about this. Think about this. Someone gets pulled over by police or things escalate. And let's say police did everything right and there's just someone who's not cooperating, is wild or whatever, and body cam, you could see that situation escalated. Police did what they thought was right to preserve their life, ended up with an assailant who was killed, and people still mad, go out protesting and rioting or whatever, because they have this in their mind that you're not supposed to have respect for authority. And that could be in all sorts of different ways, but this idea that just respecting authority is is whiteness. That's something that's also like biblically based, that rulers are put in that rulers aren't supposed to be a terror to the people, but you pray for those who are in authority, whether you like them or you don't dislike them or whatever. um so not a whiteness thing, not definitely not an American exclusive thing. That you plan for the future, that one's really crazy to me. You're gonna tell me that Asians across the world and Japan and other places, that if they plan for the future, that's whiteness? That's obviously crazy. Delayed gratification. Progress is always best. Tomorrow will be better. So straight up optimism is apparently a form of whiteness. Being on follow rigid time schedules is a form of whiteness. If time is viewed as a commodity. uh Aesthetics, based on European culture. Steak and potatoes, bland is best. Women's beauty based on blonde, thin Barbie kind of look. Um, a man's attractiveness is based on economic status, power, and intellect. So I guess I've been infected by the whiteness, because I'm sorry, I like a man who's got a job. It's I like a man who's intelligent. I like a man who has ambition. That's sexy to me. Oh my gosh. But that's whiteness in America. So just there's one more piece of the, this is all like one document. I just had to split up in like 3 different pages. Um the holidays based on Christian religions, based on white history and male leaders. Justice based on English common law. Um should it be based on Hammurabi law? Protect property and entitlements. Um, intent counts. So I talked about this infographic a lot during the trial with the kid who Kyle Rittenhouse, because there were so many people who were offended by the idea of a civilian protecting property. And I remember Don Lemon got on TV talking about, like, you call the police, you don't do that. What, that it was like this attitude that you protect your street, your country, that's wrong, that you call the police, etc. Now, what were the police doing? What were the police doing? Now, I don't think I think it's unfortunate that he felt like he needed to be there. I think it's unfortunate that they felt like they had to ask volunteers to protect those businesses, which is he's protecting a minority owned business when he was there with the firearm. I don't think Kyle should have felt like he had to have been in that position. And there are a lot of people who are just like he had no business being there. I won't say that because if it wasn't his property and stuff, but I can't fault people for feeling like I don't want this town to burn down. I definitely feel indignant about if it was my neighborhood and my store or something. Um so it shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have led to that particular situation. But this protecting your property is bad. Why ever would someone say that? Perhaps people who don't think that you should really have property. Back to those ideas of Marxism just seeping in a lot of this stuff, especially with the whiteness stuff. um I have a video about that, specifically the Don Lemon rant, in my library somewhere, my YouTube library, so you guys can find that. But it was a really crazy time. And then there's the whole intent matters, the idea that intent matters. Is a whiteness sort of concept. Shouldn't intent matter when things happen? Shouldn't intent play into situations when you're thinking about relationships and crime and guilty and innocent and all that stuff? Why wouldn't intent matter? And why is that a white thing? Um Competition, be number one, win at all cost, winner loser dichotomy. um Action orientation, master and control nature, must always do something about a situation. Apprehensiveness, aggressiveness and extravision, decision making. I decision making. Okay. Majority rules when whites have power. Um and there's communication, King's English rules, written traditions, avoid conflict, intimacy, don't show emotion, don't discuss personal life, and be polite. Being polite. Okay. Okay. All right. So again, the African American History Museum put out that document. The African American History Museum put out that document about being about whiteness in America. I'm trying to remember that Coke Be Less White slideshow, which they got from like I'm sure Ibraham Kendi sort of maybe not Ibrahim Kendi, but critical race theory type stuff. To be less white, this is from that Coca-Cola. If you guys recall, Coca-Cola did it. I did a video about this in the past before too. You can find that in my library. But Coca-Cola had some kind of training, and they were talking about being less white. And some of the things they said try to be less white. To be less white is to be less oppressive, less arrogant, be less certain, be less defensive, be less ignorant, be more humble, listen, believe, break with apathy, and break with white solidarity. Now, I don't know what world they're living in, but I definitely know arrogant, confident, defensive, ignorant, prideful, people of color who don't listen, who won't believe you, who aren't empathetic, and etc. So those aren't particularly traits of white people, but there's Um, but some of these things, like, why wouldn't you want to be certain in a work environment? Like you'd want someone to be pretty certain, wouldn't you, of a competent at doing their job and so on. Um, Confronting racism, understanding what it means to be white, challenging what it means to be racist. They just were really wild. In the US, other Western nations, white people are socialized to feel that they are inherently superior because they are white. I don't think that's much of the case today. Someone had left a comment on one of my videos on TikTok saying that if that it's mostly black people talking about racism, and I don't think that's true. I think white people are pretty suckered into talking about racism and buying into Ibraham Kendi and buying white fragility and paying for minority women to come over to their houses and lecture them on how racist they are. They're thirsty for it. They're thirsty for their white guilt. When people started in 2020, when people were like obsessed with the white guilt stuff, and I'd just be like, oh, I apologize for my white guilt. I'd be like, give me $20. I'm like, if you really feel that bad, here's my cash app. Send me some money. If you feel that bad about it, why don't you start paying some reparations if you really feel that bad about it? Because you're desperate to do something, so go ahead and try to make amends. I suppose that's how I'm asking, and I guess you can do that every other person that you find. But then once they realize that someone's asking for something other than just words of affirmation, and they look stupid. I think one person sent me $5 once, but I asked for 20. White people talk about it all the time. I'm not saying black people and other people don't, and minorities don't talk about it, because I would say just show the video with Ibraham Kendi. But if all the white people would just get together and you say, you know what, there's a lot of ridiculous stuff going on, a lot of ridiculous conversations going on, and we just need to put a nip in the bud and just say, no, we're good. We're just going to try to live normally with one another and reject your rhetoric and treat everyone the way that follow the golden rule. Like I'm going to treat you the way that, I would like to be treated, and go from there. And hopefully it'll build a better world. You don't have to do the Ibrahim Kendi anti-racism sort of deal. Just try to live normally and treat your neighbor like they are the same. But people don't even want to be treated like they're the same. And as a matter of fact, the Democrat Party platform, which they get this from like critical race theory type stuff, is that they feel like things have shifted so far that you can't actually treat everyone the same, that you can't have like neutral race policies in order to solve inequality. So people don't want to be treated the same. They want they just really want to kind of destroy civilization, a slow and painful death. That's what's really going on most of the time. But yeah, but just stop falling for the crap. Just stop falling for it. Stop allowing these people to guilt you into things that you probably don't even believe. Just stop. There's one person who I follow online. They have a pretty big Twitter and a very big YouTube channel. I can't remember what their name was. It's not Leftist Dropout. It's someone else who was a leftist. But no. It was Leftist Dropout who said that she got sick of pretending that she was racist. Like she felt like she had to be that way. Like she had to keep saying that she was and apologizing for things that she didn't really feel, associated with, but that was the thing that they told all the white people to do in 2020 and so on. And she just felt like she was forced to live a lie for clout. And then she started analyzing a bunch of different other things. She's a very powerful pro-life advocate and other stuff now. And is on the right, but she had an interesting journey. And yeah, other people could just say, you know what, we just want to live a normal life and just put a lot of this to the wayside, but they can't because this identity of whiteness, which what white people don't really have much of an identity of whiteness. There was a survey some time ago, not survey, but poll, that showed like people's different identities shaped around their race. Like black people was like 85% of black people saw their race being crucial to their identity. White people was like 15%. So not white people might like be proud to be German or Polish or Italian or something like that. But as far as like this collective sort of white identity and stuff, I guess we have plenty of white jokes and other stuff like that. But do they like see themselves as this collective identity of white people and being crucial to who they are? Not so much. I'm not saying it didn't exist before, but it's apparently from data, it's not central to their identity. But people want to make whiteness a central part of the identity so they can point and say, you're a bad person, you're bad people, and you think you're better than everyone else, because you think people should be polite and it matters, and that liking someone with a good job is a good thing. So yeah, just reject all this stuff. I guess we'll keep talking about it and keep pointing at how silly and ridiculous it all is, as we have been doing for quite some time. Oh boy. So anyway, let's move on. Um there's this story on in the UK of this man who joined a soccer team, football to them, and the women actually had enough and decided that they weren't going to play with him. So he had to end up dropping out. So he was very upset. But I'm going to go through some of this article. They already uh, have the her pronouns and stuff in there. So that's their prerogative that I don't agree with. But just for the sake of getting through with it, I am going to just read it and not try to replace every pronoun. But when I do an article, I do not do their preferred pronouns. A trans woman footballer forced to quit women's league when rivals refused to play her has secret past as a sex worker, listed as a naughty schoolgirl with a surprise under my skirt on escort site. So, yeah. A transgender footballer has forced a transgender footballer forced to quit a women's league after opposing teams refused to play against her has a secret past as a sex worker who dressed up as a mischievous schoolgirl for paying clients. Mail Online can reveal. Fran Needham, 30, earlier this week withdrew from the South Yorkshire based Rosington Main Ladies for the foreseeable future after players withdrew from facing her over alleged safety concerns last weekend. Now the row has taken a new twist as it has emerged that Needham was previously a prostitute who apparently specialized in cheerleader schoolgirl scenarios. She conceded that this happened, but while acknowledging her colorful past, Needham insisted this should have no bearing on her eligibility to play women's football. And she told Mail Online her opponents were intent on forcing her out of the game by dragging up the past. I wonder if the pun is intended there. um, that's a dude. That's a dude. Miss Needham said she now works full time as in a regular job. It is no longer engaged as a sex worker, pointing out that her profile on sex work website is now redundant. She said it is not an active profile. I accidentally left it up, but it's something I stopped doing before I began playing football. It is something I have done in the past. I will agree, and I am not going to lie about that. However, everyone has a past, and it shouldn't be brought up out of context. I stopped doing this well before I joined the team and had anything to do with FA. My personal life is completely separate and distinct from my football life. I have a full-time job now, and that is part of my past. All I want to be able to do is play football or at least support the team that I played for. I have the tremendous support from my teammates, and I'm grateful for that. It is unclear when the sex worker profile was active, and Miss Needham declined to discuss further. Um, Looking for a pre op trans individual to fulfill your desires? Look no further. I can be your naughty schoolgirl, complete with a surprise under my skirt. Hello to all you adventurous individuals. Are you seeking a unique girlfriend experience or looking to be dominated by someone like me? Send me a message with your ideas and desires. We can even role play a cheerleader or schoolgirl scenario where I can be your naughty student in need of punishment. If you prefer to connect with other social platforms, feel free to message me there as well. I'm open to dinner dates and other events. I always look stunning in a dress or skirt and a top. False advertisement. Her angry reaction came after thousands of likes for posts revealing how Needham had previously advertised her services as a pre-op trans girl to make your dreams come true. Posting a picture of herself in a schoolgirl garb, she wrote, "Transgender girl before surgery, ready to fulfill your fantasies." She can also play the role of. I just read that. So yeah. She also suggests clients may wish to play the I read that pretty much. Um, yeah. Um, so now Needham is in the process of instigating legal action against the FA, and a statement posted to the Facebook page of her club, Rosington Main Ladies, based just outside Doncaster. She says her side has faced challenges from teams unwilling to play against us while I'm on the field. She adds, the unfortunate circumstance has prompted me to investigate pursuing a case of discrimination, as I believe it represents a breach of code of conduct regarding diversity and inclusion, as well as safeguarding of adults in football established by both the Football Association and the Sheffield and Hampshire Women and Girls League. The boycott from other teams in the league came about when a player was injured in an on-field incident involving Needham. The opponent is said to have suffered a broken knee when blocking a powerful strike from the Rosington player. Needham has only played 2 games in the league this season, both last month, but hasn't lined up for the club since it became mired with controversy. A manager from an ongoing team said it was clear after 5 minutes that Needham was transgender. The manager said it was obvious. Unfortunately, the FA is allowed it to happen, but didn't let anyone know. She's quite a big, strong player. People have refused to play because they are worried about the safety of the players. My players were backing out of challenges as physic- physiologically, it's quite a big thing when you are playing against a biological male. It's quite scary. Um, Psychologically, it's quite a big thing when you're playing against a biological man. It's quite scary. They are terrified. Rosington Maine President Gerald Parsons refused to comment on the controversy, apart from stating that their opponents couldn't raise a team. In recent weeks, the manager of one of the teams to refuse to play explained the boycott, saying, "I have 16 and 17-year-old players playing for me, and their parents weren't too keen to put their welfare at risk. It is a welfare issue rather than a transgender issue." The Family Education Trust, Lucy Marsh, told on Mail Online, "It is a serious breach of safeguarding rules that to allow a male who clearly has a sexual fetish about dressing up as a schoolgirl to have access to changing rooms and bathrooms alongside girls as young as 16. This individual has a public profile as a sex worker and posts explicit images online. Many players in this women's football league are under 18, meaning that legally they are children." Yeah, there's a there's a bit more, but you get it. You get what's the issue here. Um you're not entitled to women's spaces. If you decide to go ahead and try to live your life as a woman to the best of your ability. That doesn't make you um this doesn't mean that everyone has to accommodate how you feel, how you perceive yourself. If you want to bring out your internal struggles externally, don't expect everyone to just go along with you. You're going to have to deal with everyone else's feelings about it. And if they don't want to play with you, they don't want to play with you. And there are real safety concerns. And there have been safety concerns with different women playing with men. There was a story about a volleyball player who got hit in the face, and man, she was hit so hard she had to end up having she had like brain damage. And Leah Thomas, I'm sorry, not Leah Thomas, um, Riley Gaines, she was I was at an event. I don't remember if she said this in our interview. I do have an interview with Riley Gaines, but I know at an event we went to that same day where she spoke, she talked about that player had was coming forward and saying some stuff about the transgender individual who had spiked the ball in her face, and he had texted her like, "Oh, I see you can't get me out of your head." Like, you've like permanently damaged this young woman, and you're toying with her. You shouldn't have been on the team at all and been on the field playing against her. And then you're so cruel to mock her in such a way. Very predatory type of ideology. Same with Leah Thomas, William Thomas, in the locker rooms and in the different the schools, forcing those girls to just go along with it. Um, Telling them that they could give them different therapy and other stuff to make them get along with the program and stuff. Um, Fallon Fox beat up women, and um, there is a significant power difference between men and women. There just is. There just is. So, not surprised to see that there were situations where people were at risk, and you have minors playing with this man with a fetish, and so many. I'm not gonna say this case with everyone, but there's a lot of cases where men who are so desperate to get into women's spaces and to be a part of women's spaces have some kind of kinky fetishy background. So this is another example. So kudos to the women who have stood up and said, I don't want to play against him. Kudos to them. And I don't know what will happen if this trans person ends up deciding to sue them, but I think other folks should stand up and say enough's enough. You know, go get your own sport, or go get your own team, or go play with the men. Like, you could still play with the men. You will obviously lose, but at least you get to play. You can't always win. I mean, unless you get to compete with the women and you have an obvious advantage. An obvious advantage, and that's probably why you want to play with the women, besides having access and being so close to them. So we live in a sick world, but kudos to the women who have had enough. Kudos to them. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. I hope you guys enjoy the show. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, different videos, etc. I'm reading some of the comics about the being what, being, people said being white is a being polite is a form of whiteness. Crazy stuff. We live in crazy times. But check out different content on my website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate. It does cost a stream and run my website, all that stuff, so you guys can support in that way. I appreciate it. Check out different merchandise that we have available at blacktnews.com. Tomorrow I will not be live because I will be at an event selling some stuff. So wish me luck. And I will see you guys on Thursday. God bless.